4 women vanished without a trace. Their remains discovered along a desolate stretch of sand on Long Island's South Shore. Megan Waterman, Melissa Barthelemy, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Amber Lynn Costello. Young women with dreams, families, and futures until they crossed paths with someone who had other plans. Their bodies were found wrapped in burlap sacks along Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach in December 2010. What began as a search for another missing woman, Shannan Gilbert, unraveled into one of the most haunting unsolved cases in New York history. For over a decade, the investigation stalled, theories multiplied, fear spread through coastal communities. 10 bodies in total were discovered in the area, most believed to be sex workers who advertised online. The killer was methodical, patient. He knew the terrain. He understood how to hide his work, or so he thought. In July 2023, a breakthrough finally came. Police arrested Rex Heuermann, an architect who lived in Massapequa Park just miles from where the bodies were found. A single hair found on burlap wrapping, cell phone data placing him near victims, burner phones used to contact them from locations near his Manhattan office. The evidence mounted, piece by piece. The ordinary suburban father of 2, husband and professional who designed buildings in Manhattan by day, may have been harboring the darkest of secrets by night. For 13 years, he walked free while families waited for answers. For 13 years, he believed he had covered his tracks completely. But in the meticulous game between hunter and hunted, he may have left behind the one clue that would eventually lead investigators to his door. This story takes a chilling turn you won't believe, a tale of persistence, technological advancement, and the invisible threads that connect predator to prey, no matter how many years have passed. The secrets of Gilgo Beach are finally coming to light. July 13, 2023. 5:36 a.m. Massapequa Park, Long Island. A convoy of unmarked vehicles glides through the sleepy streets of this middle-class neighborhood. FBI agents, New York State Police, Suffolk County detectives, they converge on a red brick house at 105 First Avenue, the home of 59-year-old Rex Heuermann. For the residents who witnessed this pre-dawn operation, it seems inconceivable. Their neighbor, a hulking 6'4" architect who commuted to his Manhattan office for decades, is about to be arrested for murders that haunted Long Island for 13 years. The story that led authorities to this doorstep began in December 2010, when police searching for a missing woman named Shannan Gilbert discovered the first of what would eventually be 10 sets of human remains along Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach. Now Suffolk County District Attorney Raymond Tierney stands before the press, finally able to announce charges in a case many feared would never be solved. In actual news footage, District Attorney Tierney announced that Rex Heuermann had been charged with second-degree murder for intentionally causing the deaths of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. The break that investigators had searched for through 3 presidential administrations, technological revolutions, and countless dead ends had finally materialized. But what led them to Rex Heuermann? What crucial evidence finally connected this seemingly ordinary family man to the Gilgo Four? A single hair found on the burlap that wrapped Megan Waterman's body. Mitochondrial DNA analysis finally matched it to Heuermann's wife, hair that likely transferred from him to the burlap while she was away with their children. This microscopic thread, preserved for over a decade, became the first strand in a web that would ultimately ensnare him. Then there were the phones, burner phones purchased with cash, used exclusively to contact victims. Meticulous analysis revealed these calls originated from locations near Heuermann's architectural firm on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. The same phones that were last active precisely when his wife and children were traveling out of state, the same time windows when the victims disappeared. And in 2022, after 13 years of silence, a witness finally came forward. Someone who had seen something the night Amber Costello vanished in 2010. Someone who described a first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche, the exact vehicle Heuermann owned at the time. The exact vehicle captured in a witness's memory for more than a decade. But the path to murder began much earlier, with women placing advertisements on Craigslist. Before Tinder, before OnlyFans, There was the erotic services section of Craigslist, a digital marketplace where Melissa, Megan, Maureen and Amber all advertised escort services, where their killer found them, contacted them, arranged meetings. The last known communication from Melissa Barthelemy's phone, a call to her voicemail on July 12, 2009, 5 days after she disappeared, and then silence. Her sister would later receive taunting calls from Melissa's phone, a man's voice, describing what he had done to her. Those calls triangulated to Manhattan's Midtown East Side, near Heuermann's office. For 13 years, the secrets remained buried beneath the scrub brush and sand of Gilgo Beach. As technology advanced and memories faded, it seemed the killer might never face justice. The case turned cold, despite the desperate pleas of families seeking answers, all while the man responsible allegedly continued his life, designing skyscrapers, raising children, walking among his neighbors, as if he harbored no secrets at all. As if the calculated planning that made him successful in his professional life hadn't been applied to something much more calculated, much more methodical. The arrest of Rex Heuermann opened a new chapter in one of America's most notorious unsolved cases, but the investigation remains ongoing. More victims await identification. More families wait for closure. This is the story of how modern forensic techniques, relentless detective work, and the long memory of a witness finally converged to bring a suspect to justice. This is the story of the Gilgo Beach murders, a 13-year hunt for a predator who thought he would never be found. Gilgo Beach, a narrow strip of barrier island along the south shore of Long Island. For decades, it has been a playground for the affluent, a hidden gem of Suffolk County where million-dollar homes face the Atlantic Ocean. In summer, families gather on its white sands. In winter, the wealthy retreat to their oceanfront properties, sheltered from the harsh winds by dense maritime forests. But this idyllic coastline harbors secrets. Ocean Parkway, a 15.5-mile stretch of asphalt that connects Jones Beach to Captree State Park, cuts through uninhabited marshland. Miles of scrub pine, thick brambles and dunes create a natural labyrinth perfect for concealment, perfect for someone who needed privacy, someone with something to hide. Suffolk County Police Commissioner Richard Dormer would later describe the area as secluded and desolate, a place where someone could pull over unnoticed, particularly in the dead of night. A place where screams would be swallowed by the crash of waves and the howl of coastal winds. Melissa Barthelemy, 24 years old, 5'2" with hazel eyes and dark hair, born and raised in Buffalo, New York. She moved to the Bronx in 2007, working as a hairstylist while also offering escort services advertised on Craigslist, dreams of opening her own salon, regular calls home to her mother and sister. Lynn Barthelemy, Melissa's mother, shared that Melissa was saving money and had plans for the future. She had everything mapped out. July 10, 2009. Melissa tells her roommate she's meeting a client in Manhattan. She withdraws $1,000 from an ATM. Her last outgoing call is at 7:30 p.m. Then nothing. Lynn Barthelemy recalled that Melissa would call her 2 or 3 times a week. When she didn't hear from her, she knew something was wrong. 8 days after her disappearance, Melissa's teenage sister Amanda receives a call from Melissa's own phone. But it's not Melissa on the line, it's a man. He taunts the family, describes what he's done to Melissa in graphic detail. Police trace the call to Midtown Manhattan. The caller knows to keep it under 3 minutes, not long enough for an accurate trace in 2009. By the time Melissa vanished, another young woman had already been missing for 2 years, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, 25 years old, a single mother from Connecticut with a 7-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son, just 4'11" with brown hair and blue eyes, an aspiring writer who penned poetry and short stories. Sarah Brainerd, Maureen's sister, described her as very artistic and bright, adding that Maureen loved her children more than anything. Financial hardship led Maureen to escort work. On July 9, 2007, she traveled from her home in Norwich, Connecticut to Manhattan for an appointment. She called a friend that evening to say she was heading back home by train. That was the last anyone heard from her. Sarah Brainerd, Maureen's sister, stated that Maureen would never have abandoned her children. She emphasized that they knew immediately something terrible had happened. Megan Waterman, 22 years old, from Scarborough, Maine, a devoted mother to her 3-year-old daughter. 5'5" with blue eyes and sandy blonde hair. Lorraine Ehler, Megan's mother, described her daughter as a loving mother who did everything for her daughter. June 6, 2010. Megan is in Long Island with her boyfriend, who also acted as her manager for escort services. She's staying at the Holiday Inn Express in Hauppauge, about 15 miles north of Gilgo Beach. Security cameras capture her leaving the hotel at 1:30 a.m. Her last text to her boyfriend reads, "I'm going to go see that client. I'll be back in a little while." She never returns. Lorraine Ehler recalled receiving a call from the daycare, informing her that Megan hadn't picked up her daughter in days. That was when she realized her daughter was gone. Amber Lynn Costello, 27 years old, 4'11" with green eyes and blonde hair, a recovering heroin addict who had moved to Long Island from North Carolina to escape her past and start fresh. Kimberly Overstreet, Amber's sister, shared that Amber had her struggles but was actively fighting them. She also remembered her sister for her great sense of humor and love for animals. September 2, 2010. Amber leaves her home in West Babylon, Long Island, to meet a client who has offered $500 for her services, an unusually large sum that her roommates later recalled made them suspicious. The client had called multiple times, negotiating and renegotiating. Amber tells her roommate she'll be back in an hour. She walks out the door without her purse, cell phone or ID, expecting a quick return. She is never seen alive again. 4 women, all petite, none taller than 5'5", all working as escorts advertising on Craigslist, all vanishing after meeting a client, all disappearing without a trace between 2007 and 2010. Yet for years, these cases remained disconnected. Separate investigations, separate jurisdictions, separate families searching in the dark. In the years before their remains were found, these women were often dismissed by authorities as runaways or transients, the harsh reality of how society and law enforcement sometimes view sex workers who go missing. In archived footage, Mary Gilbert, the mother of Shannan Gilbert, expressed her frustration by saying that if the victims had been college students or soccer moms, the whole world would have paid attention. But because of who they were, she felt they were treated as disposable by everyone except their families. For Lynn Barthélemy, the mysterious phone calls continued. 7 in total. The caller knew details only the killer could know. For Lorraine Ehler, there was the agony of explaining to a toddler why mommy wasn't coming home. For Sarah Brainerd, the burden of raising her sister's children while searching for answers. For Kimberly Overstreet, the guilt of not recognizing the danger her sister faced. Kimberly Overstreet shared that she constantly replays the moment in her mind, wondering if she could have stopped her or saved her. She said those questions continued to haunt her. As months turned to years, the families formed unlikely bonds, connected by uncertainty, by grief, by the common thread of daughters and sisters who vanished. They compared notes, shared resources, created makeshift support groups, all while police investigations stalled and the trail grew cold. Then in May 2010, another young woman went missing after visiting a client in the Oak Beach area of Long Island. Shannan Gilbert, a 24-year-old escort from Jersey City, made a frantic 911 call claiming someone was trying to kill her. She fled into the night and vanished. Joseph Brewer, a resident of Oak Beach, explained that she appeared disoriented and frightened. He said she ran from his house screaming, and that was the last time anyone saw her. Shannan's desperate 23-minute call to emergency services would later be described as haunting by those who heard it. She repeatedly told the operator, "They're trying to kill me." When asked who, she couldn't or wouldn't say. The call disconnected. Police response was delayed. By the time officers arrived, Shannan had vanished into the labyrinth of marshland and beach scrub. For 7 months, Suffolk County Police searched for Shannan with no success. Her disappearance might have remained just another cold case, were it not for a training exercise on December 11, 2010. Officer John Mallier and his cadaver dog Blue were conducting a routine training exercise along Ocean Parkway, not far from where Shannan was last seen. The area was chosen specifically because of its similarity to where they believed Shannan might be found. Blue was trained to detect human remains, even those buried for years. As they worked their way through the thick brush about 500 feet from the roadway, the dog suddenly gave an alert. Officer Mallier pushed aside the tangled brambles, expecting perhaps to find animal remains. Instead, he discovered burlap, and inside that rough fabric, human remains. But they weren't Shannan's. Richard Dormer, the Suffolk County Police Commissioner at the time, stated that the remains had been identified as human and were wrapped in a way that suggested they were deliberately placed at the scene. What began as a training exercise exploded into a massive search operation. Teams of cadaver dogs, forensic experts, and police recruits combed the dense vegetation along miles of Ocean Parkway. Within days, they made another discovery, and another, and another. By December 13, 2010, 4 sets of remains had been recovered, all wrapped in burlap, all placed within a quarter mile of each other along the north side of Ocean Parkway, all following the same pattern, all bearing the signature of a methodical killer who had operated undetected for years. Former Suffolk County Police Commissioner Richard Dormer stated that they were looking at the strong possibility of a serial killer being responsible. For the families of Melissa, Maureen, Megan, and Amber, the discovery brought the worst confirmation, but also the first real step toward justice. The women were no longer missing, they were murdered. And now, someone was finally looking for their killer. As the search expanded in the spring of 2011, more remains would be found, 6 additional sets, bringing the total to 10. Some had been there for decades, different victims, possibly different killers. The quiet shoreline of Gilgo Beach had become one of the largest crime scenes in New York history. But Shannan Gilbert, the woman whose disappearance had inadvertently led to these discoveries, remained missing. The search for her continued as investigators tried to determine if her case was connected to the others. Police Commissioner Dormer publicly stated he believed Shannan had drowned accidentally in the marsh, a theory her family vehemently rejected. The Gilbert family hired private investigator Ray Mitev and attorney John Ray to continue searching where police would not. For months, they demanded access to the gated Oak Beach community. They organized searches. They kept Shannan's name in the news. Then, in December 2011, a year after the first discoveries, a Suffolk County police officer and his dog were searching an area of marshland a quarter mile from where Shannan was last seen. The dog veered off unexpectedly, pulling its handler toward a tangle of thick reeds. But what that rookie officer's dog sniffed out was something no one expected. Something that would cast doubt on everything authorities had claimed about Shannan Gilbert and raised disturbing questions about connections that had been dismissed for too long. The biting December wind whipped across the desolate stretch of Ocean Parkway on Long Island, carrying with it the scent of salt and something else, something undeniably dreadfully human. It was a cold Tuesday, December 11, 2010, when Suffolk County Police Officer John Doe, leading a K-9 unit in a routine training exercise, stumbled upon a sight that would forever stain the tranquility of the sandy dunes. Instead of the expected drills, his loyal companion alerted him to something far more disturbing nestled within the thick brush, the skeletal remains of a young woman. A wave of grim realization washed over him. This was no accident. The following days brought an avalanche of horror. Within a short distance of the initial discovery, 3 more bodies were unearthed, each bearing the chilling hallmarks of violent death. Melissa Barthélemy, Maureen Brainard Barnes, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello. 4 vibrant lives extinguished, their remains callously discarded along the isolated highway. The chilling similarities between the victims, all young women working as escorts who had advertised online, ignited a firestorm of speculation. Was this the work of one depraved individual, a meticulous serial killer preying on the vulnerable? Or could something even more complex, more terrifying be at play, the coordinated actions of multiple predators? The very air in Suffolk County crackled with unanswered questions and a gnawing sense of dread. As investigators scrambled to piece together the fragmented lives of the victims, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. These women weren't just disappearing. Their digital footprints painted a picture of calculated communication. Burner phones, disposable devices designed to evade tracking, surfaced as a common thread. Call logs revealed fleeting connections, whispers in the digital ether that vanished as quickly as they appeared. GPS pings, the electronic breadcrumbs of their final journeys, offered tantalizing glimpses into their movements, only to abruptly fall silent near the desolate stretch of Parkway. The technology that had once connected them now served as a haunting reminder of their isolation in their final moments. Amidst the growing unease, one name echoed with particular urgency: Shannan Gilbert, a 24-year-old escort who vanished months before the grim discoveries, her disappearance initially treated as a missing person case. But now, with the recovery of the 4 bodies, her story took on a chilling new significance. A frantic 911 call placed by Gilbert in the hours before she vanished painted a terrifying picture of distress and pursuit. Her desperate pleas for help, the disjointed narrative punctuated by fear and panic, sent shivers down the spines of investigators. Why hadn't this call been given more weight initially? Could her fate be intertwined with the women found along Ocean Parkway? The questions hung heavy in the air, unanswered and unsettling. The investigation, already fraught with the weight of 4 lost lives, became further complicated by a tangle of red herrings and internal strife. Whispers of connections to other unsolved cases, cold trails that offered fleeting glimmers of hope before dissolving into dead ends, added layers of complexity. Internal issues within the Suffolk County Police Department cast a shadow over the investigation, raising uncomfortable questions about potential missteps and missed opportunities. For Mary Gilbert, Shannan's tenacious and fiercely devoted mother, the official narrative felt incomplete, riddled with inconsistencies. Her unwavering belief that her daughter was a victim of foul play and her relentless pursuit of answers often placed her in direct conflict with the authorities. The emotional chasm between a grieving mother demanding justice and a police department seemingly struggling to deliver it fueled public frustration and suspicion. The tension was palpable, a heavy weight pressing down on the search for truth. But years later, the relentless passage of time offered an unexpected, almost unbelievable twist. In a seemingly unrelated investigation, a discarded pizza crust carelessly tossed away would yield a DNA sample. This microscopic fragment of evidence, seemingly insignificant in itself, held the potential to shatter the silence that had shrouded the Gilgo Beach murders for over a decade. The silence that had hung over the Gilgo Beach investigation for over a decade was about to be violently broken. Years bled into one another, marked only by the persistent ache of unanswered questions and the fading hope of resolution. Then, in the years spanning 2022 and 2023, a seismic shift occurred, a break in the case that few dared to still anticipate. The catalyst, an utterly mundane object, a discarded pizza box. In a stroke of investigative ingenuity and perhaps a touch of serendipity, DNA recovered from this discarded crust allegedly linked a suspect to the long unsolved murders. The name that surfaced sent shockwaves through Long Island and beyond: Rex Heuermann. Heuermann, a seemingly ordinary architect living in Massapequa Park, a stone's throw from where the victims disappeared, became the focal point of an intense investigation. The image of a nondescript suburbanite leading a double life, a monster lurking in plain sight, was deeply unsettling. But the DNA evidence was just the tip of a chilling iceberg. A new witness emerged, a sex worker who claimed to have escaped a terrifying encounter with a man matching Heuermann's description. Her harrowing testimony provided a crucial human element to the cold forensic data, painting a picture of a predator operating in the shadows. The digital ghosts of the victims' last communications also began to yield damning clues. Cell phone tower records placed burner phones linked to the victims in the vicinity of Heuermann's known residences and workplaces at critical times. The seemingly untraceable devices, once a hallmark of the elusive killer, now served as electronic threads leading directly to the suspect. The meticulous tracking of these digital breadcrumbs painted a picture of calculated movements and a chilling pattern of proximity to the victims. As the evidence mounted, investigators descended upon Heuermann's unassuming Massapequa Park home. The search revealed a disturbing cache of potential evidence, including weapons and other items that sent a chill down the spines of even seasoned detectives. The visual of this ordinary house, now the epicenter of a horrific investigation, was deeply unsettling. Neighbors, who had known Heuermann for years, grappled with the unbelievable reality unfolding in their quiet suburban street. A nagging question began to surface amidst the revelations. Why had it taken so long? What crucial details had been overlooked in the initial years of the investigation? Had opportunities to identify Heuermann earlier been missed? The weight of these unanswered questions added another layer of disquiet to the unfolding narrative. The years of anguish for the victims' families, the frustration of investigators, and the fear that had gripped the community all seemed to converge on this single, perplexing point. Just as a sense of resolution, however fragile, began to settle, a stark reminder emerged that the full story had yet to be told. The investigation into Rex Heuermann was far from over. The scope of his alleged crimes, the possibility of other victims, and the lingering questions surrounding the initial investigation left a sense of unease hanging in the air. The narrator's voice, heavy with the weight of the unfolding events, delivered a chilling promise. But this case isn't over, not even close. The darkness that had shrouded Gilgo Beach for so long might have found a face, but the full extent of its reach remained terrifyingly unknown. The summer of 2023 brought a moment that many had dared to hope for, but few truly expected. The grip of the unknown that had choked the Gilgo Beach community for over a decade finally loosened. In July, Rex Heuermann, the architect from Massapequa Park, was taken into custody. The arrest sent a jolt of disbelief and a wave of raw emotion through Long Island. Here was the man who had allegedly haunted their nightmares, the specter lurking in their midst. The portrait that began to emerge of Heuermann was unsettling in its stark contrast. By all outward appearances, he was a fixture of his community, a New York City architect, a husband, a father. Neighbors described him as quiet, unremarkable, a man who blended seamlessly into the suburban landscape. This veneer of normalcy, however, concealed a darkness that investigators were only beginning to fully comprehend. The revelation of his alleged double life, the chasm between the mundane and the monstrous, was deeply disturbing. How could such a seemingly ordinary individual be capable of such extraordinary depravity? The question hung heavy in the air, a testament to the unknowable depths that can lie beneath the surface of everyday life. The wheels of justice began to turn, grinding slowly but inexorably forward. Court proceedings commenced, each hearing drawing intense media scrutiny. The courtroom became a stage where grief and the pursuit of truth collided. The defense strategy, meticulously crafted, aimed to sow seeds of doubt, to challenge the forensic evidence, to paint a picture of a man wrongly accused. The media, a relentless force, dissected every detail, every nuance of the legal battle, broadcasting the unfolding drama to a captivated and horrified public. For the families of Melissa Barthelemy, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello, the arrest brought a complex mix of emotions. Relief that a suspect was finally in custody mingled with the raw, enduring pain of their loss. Tears flowed freely, tears of sorrow, tears of anger, and perhaps, just perhaps, the first hesitant tears of hope for some semblance of justice. Mary Gilbert, who had fought tirelessly for years to keep her daughter Shannan's case alive, was not there to witness this moment. Her own tragic death years prior cast a long shadow over the proceedings, yet the collective voice of the victims' loved ones echoed through the courtroom and beyond, a powerful testament to the enduring impact of these devastating crimes. Their presence served as a constant reminder of the human cost of the Gilgo Beach murders, the lives irrevocably altered by the violence that had shattered their world. The pursuit of accountability had begun, but the emotional scars would undoubtedly remain. Even with an arrest made, the disquiet surrounding the Gilgo Beach case refused to dissipate entirely. The grim discoveries along Ocean Parkway had unearthed not just the remains of Melissa Barthelemy, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello, but also the bodies of several other individuals in the same vicinity. The question that continued to haunt investigators and the public alike was whether these additional victims were connected to Rex Heuermann, or if a more complex and terrifying reality lay hidden beneath the surface. Were there other predators at play, their crimes obscured by the focus on the Gilgo 4? The possibility of another killer operating in the same hunting ground sent a fresh wave of unease through the community. Adding another layer of complexity was the unresolved case of Shannan Gilbert. While her disappearance had initially triggered the search that led to the discovery of the other bodies, her death remained a subject of intense debate and conflicting theories. The official stance of the Suffolk County Police Department, attributing her death to accidental drowning in a marsh, was met with skepticism by her family and their advocates. They pointed to the frantic 911 call, the circumstances surrounding her disappearance, and the proximity of her remains to the other victims as evidence of foul play. The chasm between the official narrative and the persistent doubts surrounding Shannan's fate fueled public distrust and demands for a more thorough and transparent investigation into her case. Was she a victim of the same individual responsible for the Gilgo 4, or did her tragic end lie elsewhere, a separate but equally disturbing chapter in the Gilgo Beach saga? The lack of definitive answers continued to cast a long shadow over the pursuit of justice. The arrest of Rex Heuermann, while a significant step, did little to quell the public outcry for greater transparency and reform within the Suffolk County Police Department. The years of unanswered questions, the perceived missteps in the initial investigation, and the lingering doubts surrounding the handling of Shannan Gilbert's case had eroded public trust. Demands for accountability, for a comprehensive review of past actions, and for systemic changes within the department grew louder. The hope was that the exposure of the Gilgo Beach case would serve as a catalyst for meaningful reform, ensuring that future investigations would be handled with greater diligence, transparency, and an unwavering commitment to justice for all victims. The darkness that had shrouded Gilgo Beach had begun to recede, but the demand for light to illuminate every corner of this tragic story remained strong. The arrest and prosecution of Rex Heuermann brought a measure of closure to a decade of anguish, yet a fundamental question continues to linger in the minds of many who have followed this harrowing case. Did he act alone? The sheer number of unidentified remains found along that desolate stretch of Ocean Parkway raises a disquieting possibility. Could one individual have been responsible for all of them? Or was there another, unseen hand at play in this tragic narrative? The digital breadcrumbs, the witness accounts, and the forensic evidence presented in court pointed squarely at Heuermann for the murders of Melissa Barthelemy, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello. But what about the others? The lack of definitive links leaves a chilling uncertainty hanging in the air. And as the legal proceedings unfold, another crucial question demands consideration. Was justice truly served? The conviction of an alleged perpetrator can bring a sense of relief, a feeling that accountability has been achieved. Yet, the profound loss experienced by the victims' families remains an open wound. Can any legal outcome truly compensate for the years of absence, the stolen futures? Furthermore, the lingering questions surrounding the initial investigation, the handling of Shannan Gilbert's case, and the possibility of other victims leave a sense that the full truth may still be elusive. The pursuit of justice is a complex and often incomplete endeavor, leaving room for doubt and the persistent yearning for a deeper understanding. Now, we turn to you, the observers of this unfolding tragedy. What are your thoughts? Do you believe Rex Heuermann acted alone in the Gilgo Beach murders? Or do you suspect the involvement of others? Has the justice system, as it currently stands, truly delivered what the victims and their families deserve? We invite you to share your insights, your theories, and your perspectives in the comments below. This is a case that has captured the attention and the concern of so many, and your voices are an important part of this ongoing conversation. Finally, If you believe that cold cases, stories like these that linger in the shadows, deserve the spotlight, if you believe in the relentless pursuit of truth and justice, then please hit the like button. And if you want to join us each week as we delve into other intricate and compelling investigations, subscribe to our channel for more in-depth explorations of the mysteries that continue to captivate and challenge us. The story of the Gilgo Beach killings serves as a chilling reminder, a stark illumination of a truth that often remains hidden in plain sight. The most terrifying threats don't always lurk in the distant shadows. Sometimes they reside within the familiar landscapes of our lives, behind the closed doors of seemingly ordinary homes, living amongst us as neighbors, colleagues, even family. The facade of normalcy can be a potent disguise, concealing unimaginable darkness within. The case of Rex Heuermann, the unassuming architect who allegedly led a double life, stands as a stark testament to this unsettling reality. The questions surrounding this case are far from over. To delve deeper into the lingering mysteries, we invite you to explore our upcoming follow-up videos. In Shannan Gilbert, The Call That Still Haunts Us, we will revisit the desperate 911 call and the disputed circumstances surrounding her death, examining the evidence and the unanswered questions that continue to fuel debate. And in Unsolved Victims of Gilgo Beach, we will turn our attention to the other individuals whose remains were discovered along Ocean Parkway, exploring their stories and the ongoing efforts to identify them and determine if their fates are linked to the same predator or if other unknown dangers lurked in the shadows of Long Island. As we close this chapter, consider this haunting truth. 13 years passed between the initial discoveries and the first arrest. In that time, 11 bodies were found, each representing a life tragically cut short. One man has been charged, but the sand dunes of Gilgo Beach hold their secrets close. How many more stories remain untold? How many more victims are yet to be identified? And how many more secrets still lie buried beneath the seemingly tranquil surface of Long Island? The search for answers continues.